Good morning and good afternoon. We are live for our beautiful first transmission through StreamYard, which is very exciting, Barb. Our whole purpose is really moving forward at the moment, and it feels so beautiful to be here with you on being able to share both our platforms on Let Her Be Heard, which is really about allowing that voice of femininity and the voice of truth and vulnerability really be able to come through. So thank you for being here yet again.
Yes, thank you, Andrea, for putting this together. I just love it that we're moving forward with just impacting lives with love. I just love it. So thank you.
It does. It feels so good, doesn't it? We've talked about this a little in terms of when you know, and really that is the essence of our message, isn't it? Is that when you know, things just flow. It's like a little poem I didn't even know. When you know, things flow, and this is such a beautiful flow at the moment for us and our community, and letting her be heard. So thank you. We are now going to be able to see people that join us, and it's going to feel even more connected for us because Helene is with us. So good morning. Thanks for tuning in, Helene.
Yes, I love it that we can do this now, Andrea. This is so fun.
Yeah, just interacting with our community because that's what it's about. So, but this afternoon, I have to get used to that, the time difference. I'm so used to saying this morning. But the topic that found its way to us, because it tends to be what happens, is that these topics and what we want to jam about really do find us. But this unknowing what we always thought we knew so that we can actually follow our true knowing. And I guess that can be a little like cryptic, like, what do you mean you got to unknow to know to new and all of this? But I guess for me personally, and this is what I always reflect on, is that we become who we are. This is my belief, and you'll chime in, I know, with yours.
Well, I will.
We become who we are through the eyes of the external world, through the authority figures, through the people we love, through the people that we respect. And we see ourselves for quite some time through the eyes of the external world. Mm-hmm. And so our beliefs in some ways can be tarnished, or in some ways can be manipulated, in some ways can be, celebrated through the eyes of what other people want for us, or what they believe is true for us. And we can come to a crossroad, and this is what I talk a lot about, come to this crossroad, and something just isn't feeling right in our skin anymore.
Right.
And for me, when we talked about this, it was like I had to unknow everything I knew about who I was to be able to know who I truly was. And that was my process of unknowing, shedding those layers first, so that I could find my truth and follow that path with confidence and conviction, and overcome hurdles that got in the way. And so this unknowing is just, for me, shedding these layers of deception, and so that I could see the truth of who I was. Mm-hmm. So how do you see this, Bob? Because I know we might be slightly different here, and I love that we are. So
yes, and that's what we talked about before the show, that like we see this a little bit different, but I love it because our listeners might see it a little bit different. So we want to speak so everybody can get what we mean. So for me, it's more like letting the truth be known, and then the other stuff falls away. And so you came at it more from unknowing to take something away to get something, and I'm like just bring in love, and the other is like, oh, that's not even true. And so we get the same result. We just might come to it a little bit different. But for me, it's just like when I started previous episodes, we've talked about, like, I started hearing what I call the voice of love, God, universe, whatever you want to call it. And I started hearing this, and it started speaking my truth to me. I didn't know who I was because of the identity that I'm created in. I knew it more from, oh, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I ran our business, that kind of thing. And so, so when I started hearing from the voice of love, I started hearing more about my identity rather than what I do or the titles that I have. Does that make sense, Andrea?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Because what I feel come through from you is that you began to hear that you are love and that you are beautiful, and all of those identities that create strength and conviction and confidence and compassion and empathy that you now take to the world and share with them. Would that be a fair
Yeah.
kind of reflection, I
Yeah.
guess?
I'm
Yeah.
creative. I'm brilliant. I'm
Yeah.
all those things that are really identity pieces. And, you could take each one of those pieces and ask, how am I creative? How am I brilliant? How am I love? I am love. How am I love? And so start doing those things versus the, what I'd been told, like, oh, I am this because I've always been told this. And so
Yeah.
that's what you're talking about, unlearning what you knew. Like if you knew, like, and it doesn't even have to be as extreme as to say, like, you'll never be able to do that, but maybe it is that you'll never be able to do that, or that's a waste of time, or things like that, that like, what is your truth? It might be that for someone else, but what is it for you?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I just want to thank everybody that's tuning in here. That, like, I can see that there's a couple of people tuning in, so we have swapped over to this platform so that we can be more interactive with our beautiful community. So I just really want to thank everybody that's tuning in. But my examples, of how I come from the other way, and I really do believe that this comes down to personalities, and this comes down to, I even believe this comes down to core woundings in some way, in terms of what are our pain points and where is our confidence level, and are we a pleaser or an achiever, or what's that kind of formal identity in underneath there. But the two examples that I can give of what I kind of mean in terms of having to unknow what I thought I knew was, I was 28 and scared of the dark, and I'd just become widowed, and I had a 3-year-old and an 8-month-old baby, and I was petrified of the dark. So having to live on my own in that, it just created so much more angst in my life at that time, that it was that crossroad of, what am I going to do? I hated coming home to my house after dark. I had to have all my curtains closed at night. And it was nauseating, Barb, to live that way. And I went to a counsellor, obviously, with my grief, and I didn't go to my counsellor for that because I absolutely thought that I was born that way. I was 28 and had no clue that I was not born afraid of the dark.
Oh, wow.
And so, which is kind of curious to me now that I got to that age without realizing that I controlled my thoughts. They didn't control me, but that was my reality. I had been labeled a worrier my whole life. I worried about lots of things because I love deeply. I feel deeply. I'm an empath. And so I just assumed this was my life, and how was I gonna live out my days afraid of the dark, because it was pretty bad. And her first question was, or her first statement was, choose a different thought. And I looked at her as if she was crazy, because if it was that easy, Barb, why would I have not done that before now? Like, what are you doing? Am I seriously paying you money for this sort of thing? Like, choose a different thought. I don't control my thoughts. I don't choose what comes in. And she's like, yeah, you do. You absolutely do. And she took me through a process that I was, within 2 days, I've never been afraid of the dark ever again, because the process was making me conscious of what was happening. It was like I would have the fear crop in, and the story would run away, because I just assumed I was a worrier. I just thought that's who I was. I was just the person afraid of the dark. I had no basis or understanding that that's not who I am. That's just something I feel, and I can change that. So that was kind of like, I had to unknow who I thought I knew I was to find my truth, which that's just that's a tiny snippet of how this works for me.
Yeah, that's so true though, Andrea, of you can change a thought. And what if I'm without the thought of I'm afraid of the dark? What if
Yeah.
who am I without that thought? And
She
so
took me to the thought court, which was kind of like she made me find the evidence for the thought that I was having. Because obviously I thought I was going to be attacked, or I thought that somebody would be in my house, and it's like I understand it now that what she was doing was actually bringing me into the present moment.
isn't that true?
Where's the evidence to support? We're taking this to the thought court, and to find this guilty, that it's a reasonable fear to have, you have to provide the evidence. And so she made me go through scenarios. Do I live in an unsafe area? Has anybody's house ever been broken into? Has there been any reports on the news of someone being out stalking women? Like, where's the evidence? Has this happened to somebody else before? Has it happened to you before? And all of that just brought me into the present moment of reality. And we know that that's where the power is, but we have to commit to it, and we have to choose to be conscious to it. So that's my, yeah.
I love that, the thought court.
Yeah.
What a concept, Andrea. We hadn't talked about that, but like if we did take our thoughts through court like that, like what is the evidence? Show me, is this something I should be afraid of or not? I love that. So in that aspect, unknowing what you thought, I love that. That's really cool.
I think you kind of do that. In that you do it through your heart. See, my journey's progressed in terms of coming out of my head and into my heart more. And I feel like that's kind of been the difference in our journey a little bit, is that, you know, I think your thought court really is through, you know, your judge and jury sits in your heart. That's what I see and feel.
That is true. Yes.
Yeah, so it's beautiful. But Annette, thank you so much.
Yeah, Annette. This is my friend from the UK. Yeah, it's a great question, isn't it? Yeah.
Trust. There's that word, trust. It's that, oh my God, that's my 2020 word, just Annette. So that's so beautiful confirmation. Thank you so much for that. So, and the other thing that I did want to share this morning in terms of that unknowing what we thought we knew, you know, one of the biggest transitions in terms of me owning who I am. And I feel like in a lot of ways, Barb, what we share and what we go through is very intimate to us, but we know that we're all one, really. So a lot of the times what we go through or what we're dealing with or feeling is actually much bigger than us, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
So in terms of, for me, my identity, in terms of unknowing who I always thought I knew, again, it always comes back to the biggest life experience, and that was obviously becoming widowed, and that really changes who you are, and it really exposes who you're not, or all of that. It's a really unsettling time. Let's be honest. It's a really, really unsettling time.
Yeah.
And a couple of years after, when I had to start making decisions about my future, and it was obvious that my future was going to look very different to my past. And I'm a pleaser, and that can be really difficult for someone who doesn't want to upset others around them. But there was a certain period in my life where I was the shakiest I'd ever been, and I was making decisions, but people in different areas of my life with different decisions were openly telling me that they were not okay with those decisions, and they were openly commenting or putting pressure on for me to change my mind. And it was really exhausting. But the thing that it did for me, and this is where I come from, that unknowing what you always thought you knew, was because, again, for whatever reason, it was almost like it was it wasn't of my doing. It was like the higher out there doing.
Yeah.
But there was like four different things, and some were big and some were little, but there were four different experiences where people were saying that I wasn't right, or they weren't happy with this, or I should be doing this and I shouldn't be doing that. And they were kind of having a fairly good go of who I was. And I can remember exactly where I was standing. And I can remember thinking, they're not okay with that decision. They're not okay with that decision. They're not okay. And this was like, I was on the verge of a midlife crisis, or, you know, I was on antidepressants. I was not in a good place. And I just had this thought, or this experience come through of, there's a common denominator. And the common denominator is me. And for the first time in my life, instead of sitting there and being frustrated and annoyed and angry at why they were doing this to me, why can't they see how hard this is? Why can't they see that my world is crumbling and I'm holding on for dear life? I started to ask the question, what is it about me that allows the people to get that close to telling me what they think? And the thing that came through, we talk about a lot, Barb, at night. Last night I was thinking about this. And the truth of this came through, that everyone is entitled to their opinion. Yeah. Everyone. And we can't stop that. We have no control, and nor should we. Everybody is entitled to their opinion. But we owe it to ourselves to not make that our truth.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. It can be our truth, but it's our truth because it is our truth.
That's right.
It says it is.
And so I had to unknow everything that I thought I knew to be able to actually have the courage to say, that's not okay for me. Mm-hmm. And I haven't always done that with love, Barb. I haven't always done that with soft tenderness and gentleness, because it was so difficult to learn or to know who I was. But it can be done from a place of, and that's the thing, the more that we know and the more that we follow that truth. And this is why I love the way that you come from it, because you come from that place of stepping towards that, and all of the rest of that sort of falls away.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. So I'm listening to you. I love everything you're saying. And yeah, for me, it is that you can step in that way of love. Like you're kind of talking about getting to boundaries.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is who I am, and this is what is right for me, and this is what I need to do for me, and following the knowing inside you, your own truth, versus the other voices. And when you're strong in that knowing, and you know how to listen and how to follow, and it takes bravery, it takes courage. You're in the arena, as
Brene Brown, yeah. If you're not in the arena getting your ass kicked, then you can head on out.
You're right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. But when you know that, and I often say it's just like our names. Your name is Andrea, and if I call you Sarah, you aren't even offended by it. And you think, oh, Barb misspoke or something. And that's how, when we know who we are and we know how we're being led and guided, and we follow that, it doesn't matter what other people think. This is my truth. This is what's right for me. And the other thing is, we don't go searching outside ourselves for the answer.
Yes. That.
Yeah, the answer's inside. And it's so interesting. I had a conversation just this morning with someone, and maybe kind of looking to other people for answers, but I'm like, but what do you want? What is your knowing telling you? And we just did little things like, ask yourself, is this for my highest and best? And how do you feel when you say that? Does your body light up? Like, I could see it on their face. I could see they're sitting up and like, yes. And then I said, and how does it feel when it said like, no, I shouldn't do this? And it was like, and they said, oh, I could just feel my heart drop when I said that. I was like, that's your answer.
Yes.
So, and that knowing, when you follow this knowing, other people might not understand it. And that's okay. Because the facts, the numbers, the data, whatever might be saying something. But if you have something bigger inside you, of course that is going to expand you. It's going to take getting in the arena to go forward and be vulnerable and be courageous, be brave. It's going to take that because you're expanding. And so I just love following the knowing. And that's what you're getting back to, of like knowing what you will cross over. What are your boundaries versus giving other people power to say, like, you shouldn't be doing that. That's not the right move. Like, okay, you can listen to some voice, you can listen to some people, but always go back to your knowing. Always.
And it's very much a body thing, isn't it? For me anyway, it's a very physical thing. When you commit to, how does this feel in my body? My answer lies within me. You can, because my heart will race, or I get like an anxious feeling. And that to me is what I've been following. It's not right. And even down to connecting with you, Barb. We've spoken about this. We've floated around in similar circles for a little while and hadn't connected.
Yeah.
And so for people tuning in, or anybody that watches this, Barb and I have known each other for maybe 5 weeks. Our second conversation was our first call. It's been that effortless, much of a love affair.
Right, there you go.
But this, following this knowing, there was a situation where you popped up and I was going to reach out, and I had this physical feeling of, I don't know, just because of the reason I was reaching out, not because I just want to be really clear, not because of who you are. But I knew to follow the knowing of, not right yet. It's not the time. It's not the reason. It's
right.
That's not what you're meant to be doing. And then it was only a couple of days later you popped up with a comment somewhere else, and there was something very much about, oh, you really should connect with Barb and just meet her, find out about her. We've got some things in common. And it's that. It's being able to know who you are and what feels right. What feels right, not what thinks right, but what feels right. And trusting, that word trust from Annette, like, it's massive. Being able to trust ourselves enough, and what we feel that is right for us.
Let's pause on that for a second with our listeners, of how do you know your truth? And one way is, like we just said, you can feel it. And sometimes we're not aware of that. Like, has anybody ever told you that you can feel your knowing? Has anybody ever said you can feel a yes or you can feel a no? And watch where you feel it in your body and see how it feels. And does it feel right? Does it feel not right? You know, you can tell. And like this today with this person, it was like, is this for my highest and best? And I was like, yeah, my heart's racing. I can feel it. Is this not for my highest? And it was like, no. And you can even see my body language when I do that. And so one thing to do is stand in front of a mirror even and watch your own facial expression and watch your body, and you will see your shoulders go down. It's so crazy how the body responds. And so if someone hasn't done that before, that's something really, it's fun. It's interesting. And you can, once you start doing it a little bit, when you first start doing it, you might like, oh, that's just me. And did my body really move and stuff like that? But, just go with the beginning. Don't judge it, and just go with the beginning and just see what happens. And if it does become a happy or a down or whatever, to just like, oh, isn't this interesting? And just let it feel, let it happen for a little bit, and give yourself permission to hear your knowing, experience love, as I call it, in a way that maybe you haven't before. And It's really exciting. When people will do that, it's really exciting. Experience love in a way you haven't before. How can I love myself deeper? I just read that the other day. Like, how can I love deeper? How can I love myself deeper? And what an amazing gift to give yourself, to just become aware of your physical beingness, if that's even a word. But you know what I mean? So
And
as long as you're going there, I wanted to give her.
it's that the word that comes through so strongly is observer. Like, become an observer of your emotions and your thoughts and your reactions and your responses, and just observe what happens, and you will begin to tune into what is true for you. You will begin it's like a baby. You don't come out of the womb and you can run a marathon. Like, it's no different. Like, really becoming conscious of who you are and your truth. You don't wake up and go, okay, I'm conscious now. I know exactly who I am. It takes a little practice. And, for me in particular, like, I can always tell now when I don't follow the knowing. You know that. You can have this, I don't think that's right for me, but you say yes anyway. Yeah. And it's this training ground of going, I knew that was not right for me. And that's okay, because that in itself, like, it's not about getting life right. It's about experiencing the richness of it.
Yes.
And growing and loving yourself. No matter whether you step towards the most wrong thing for you. It's just that it's like a muscle, like, and be brave enough to ask.
Yes. And
be brave enough to ask. Yes.
And trust yourself.
Like, what is my answer? Yeah. What is my truth?
Right. A lot of people don't even know that this happens because we're not always taught to be aware like that, be conscious of ourselves. So I love it. And I always say, like, start out with things that, you don't have to do the big life changing things that, like big decisions, like even as small as, what do I wear today? Is that what I should wear? Isn't what I should wear? Or what should I eat? Or and even observe yourself. Like, if you're just going for a drive, do I turn left, right, go straight? Like, maybe we've all done that a little bit before. We've gone for a drive and you're just like, I think we're supposed to turn right here. Take notice. That's you noticing truth for you in that moment. Yeah. And so we all notice in a ways, just, are we aware that we're even aware? Does that make sense?
Yeah. And it's those little bits, because, this is the thing, that what I feel is that people can, and because of the work that I do, obviously, I have people who are at that crossroad, like, they've got the big stuff that they can't work out. And so the training ground of, what do I wear? Do I turn? This is all foundational stuff. Yeah. If you can just tune into those decisions and play with it and go, oh yeah, right. And even realize that turning right took me to a dead end. Cool. Turn around, wonder what is left.
Yeah.
And be okay with the lightness of choice.
Yes.
Because that strengthens for the big stuff. That strengthens for when we are really stepping into our truth, where we might experience people not being okay with what we're choosing, or things really not working out as we had intended. It allows us that space and that grace to go, I just turned right and it was a dead end. I'll turn left. Yeah. And there was something that you said to me a couple of weeks ago that I think is so pertinent right now, that I want to share, in terms of the big things and in terms of that journey of really embracing our truth and breaking out of those cages. We talk about a lot, so the big stuff. And you said to me, they are things we did, or you might have said it to me, but that's something you did, Andrea. That's not who you are.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So in terms of, for me being a pleaser and finding it really challenging to say no, and then all of a sudden I start to step forward with a loving no, it was challenged because I wasn't rock solid. Like, people might be challenged. It might be challenging to start to say no because people are so used to who we were.
Right.
And it's being able to say, that's who I was, or that's, but that's not who I am, if that makes sense. Like, we can always change how we choose to live our life and our truth and how we grow and where we live or the job we have or the relationships we have, or we can change our clothes and our undies and our wallpaper in our house. We have the choice. But what I feel is so that the message that I love is that when you know who you are, there is so much more space for love.
Absolutely. Yes.
Because we're breaking out of those cages that encapsulate you in frustration or anger or resentment or sadness or overwhelm. It's like when you break out of those cages, there's so much space for love and grace and all of that.
Peace, joy, everything we're looking for. Yeah. Yeah. We love this subject. Great.
Awesome. So that's our roundup for unknowing what you always thought you knew, that it's actually okay to own who you are and be okay, and ask yourself, tap in, become aware, become conscious, and share that with the world. So thank you again to everybody that came in or watching any playbacks and the comments. It's beautiful. We love you all. And we might see you a day earlier next week, because next week is Christmas Day. So we might be jamming on a Thursday. So we'll let our community know, though, right?
Okay. That sounds good. Yeah. Right.
Beautiful. All right.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks.